Welcome to the Developers Who Test podcast, a podcast for developers who embrace test automation so they can ship better quality software faster and have more fun doing it. I'm your host, Chris Harbert, and I'm here today with Natalia Petrovskaia. Natalia is QA engineering manager at Customer Times and has more than 9 years of experience in QA and 5 years dedicated to test management. She's managed QA teams, spoken at conferences, helped companies get QA teams in place, as well as many other things related to software testing. Welcome to Developers Who Test, Natalia.
Hi, Chris. Thanks for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you. So I always like to start off by asking people how they got into software testing. And, I was looking back on your LinkedIn profile and it looked like you came from the marketing side. So I
Yeah,
was hoping
I
maybe
did.
you could tell us a little bit about, what happened when you were in marketing and then made the transition into software testing.
Well, it started in my school. During my school years, I was fond of computers. I was programming on the Pascal language, and I really liked it and I enjoyed it. But well, somehow I found myself in the university studying public relations, and about 10 years were dedicated to this sphere. I was working as marketing manager, as a social marketing manager, etc., etc. But I never was happy in that profession, and I was always thinking of computers. And at some point, a friend of mine told me that a career of software tester would be perfect for me because I'm very, you know, uh, I like small details. I like change things. I like to influence on something which becomes bigger than these small things. And I was like, wow, I never knew about it. And then I studied about software testing. I finished courses. I found my first job, and I like 2 or 3 years. I was just happy every day for being software testing a tester. I was like, wow, it's a job of my dream. I was really fond of it, and it was great to do all of this, but then I burnt out after this time.
Yeah, so what was
Yeah,
it that you were really enjoying about it, and what do you think changed for how you got burnt out?
I enjoyed influencing the software quality and some business decisions. I understood how to make business work more efficient. And I understood that as a small test engineer, can influence really large systems. Uh, I was enjoying diving into complex business processes. I worked with financial systems. I worked with genetic evaluation systems. So it was really impressing, and I felt like, wow, I'm doing such big things, and I don't need to be like a huge boss to make difference. So
Mhm.
it was the main thing that I was like, very enjoying very much. Uh, and burnt out. I burnt out because I worked too much. I
Mm.
didn't take my day offs. I didn't use all of my vacation, etc. I just was like, wow, 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 I love work. I don't need rest, guys. If you love your work, you still need rest.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that. Particularly when we're early in our careers, uh, you have to strike a really good balance, right?
Yeah,
Because when you're younger, you've got a lot of energy, so it's a really good opportunity to work hard, really get a ton of experience, and as you age, let's face it, some of that energy goes away. Not all of
yeah,
it, of course. So it is a really key time to get that experience, to work hard. But you do need to really watch that you don't don't push it too far, right? We all have
Yeah,
limits, and knowing where those limits are can be really
yeah.
important. So
And
what
it's
when
also
that
good.
happened, what did you do? What kind of changes did you make?
Um, I changed the project, and mm, I had a lot of focus. I put a lot of focus to my work-life balance, and I uh, got back all my hobbies. I went back to my choir, and I started oil painting, etc.
Hmm.
So I just tried to balance my life with other things I like and I love, not only work. And it really helped, and it helps me now as a manager. It is also easy to work without stopping to think about work even when you are not like on your working hours. But having some things which you like helps you to uh, move your thoughts out of work and focus on something different.
Today's episode of the Developers Who Test podcast is brought to you by Testery.com. Whether you're a developer who has just a handful of tests or even thousands, then your tests deserve to be running on the fastest and most reliable platform for open source testing. With AI driven insights and analytics, unparalleled parallelism, and awesome integrations, Testery enables you to get more from your tests. Check us out today at Testery.com. So, how did you get that first management position? I know there are a lot of folks out there who, maybe they're mid level developer or tester and they want to be the team lead or they want to be the manager. What advice would you have for those folks to do that? And what did your path look like?
Um, my path was rather classic, I think, because I grew up in one team where I came as a regular test engineer. Then I became a small group lead. I had like team of 3 test engineers among the whole team of about 20. And then I was proposed the role of test manager in the project to lead all the testers. I had about 30 test engineers at some point. And I think the main thing that helped me was like my me being very involved in the project, into the success of the project. I was very proactive. I was always challenging some decisions. I was highlighting the risks, and that's why I was visible for the management. They knew that
Hmm.
I'm caring about the project, about the success, about the business, and I think that's why they decided to propose this position to me. And I think that being indifferent is really key to become a test lead. And if you are showing your interest and your proactiveness, it probably will help you. Maybe not if they don't value this on your current work, there will be a work where they value proactiveness
Mhm.
and being caring.
Yeah, I love that, in that you brought up something that is, a willingness to challenge decisions. I think when it comes to entry level people, um, and particularly depending on what culture they're from, it can be a real challenge to be willing to step up and say like, "Hey, I don't think this is the right decision," or maybe we should do this other thing instead. And as an experienced manager, I appreciate when someone on my team does that. There's a time in every decision where initially you want the team's input and you want to know what diverse opinions people have because you're ultimately trying to get to the best decision. And then there's a point where the decision's been made and okay, now everybody, even if they had differing opinions, needs to commit to the decision and agree to move forward with it as if it were their own decision. But in that early period, it's really important to have a healthy debate as a team if you want to get to the best possible outcome.
Yeah.
And so I love that you mentioned that that's part of it, because I think for people who are looking for that first lead role or manager role, uh, that's a really good opportunity to show leadership, even though you don't have the title yet.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah. Um, do you find anything that you're missing from, a lot of times when people move up into management, they don't get to do the day job as much as they used to. So, maybe if you're a developer, you don't get to write as much code. If you're a tester, you don't get to go through and test the websites as much, or be as active on the projects. And that gets replaced with dealing with the people side of management, and people asking for raises or interpersonal conflicts between different people on the team, which is still, obviously important stuff. That's why managers get paid. But do you find yourself missing the role that you came out of when you went into management?
Nah,
No.
I really enjoy my current role, and I had an experience after I was this test manager. It was very hard, very high loaded project, and I was like, I don't want to manage anything anytime further. I just want to be an engineer because it's too much pressure, too much responsibilities, etc. I tried to step back to the engineering role. I didn't like it. In 3 months, I found myself like, why are we doing this? It's not working. Let's restructure the process. Let's just automate this and redo that, etc., etc. I understood that like having this experience, I really enjoy changing things on a higher level. I don't want to. Um, not now interested in changing something like small when I can change something big. And I really enjoy it. I know how can I influence and how I can change something. And I am not missing test cases actually.
Yeah. I think it's helpful for people to know that, there isn't one path that you have to be on, right?
Yeah,
Uh, and then what's nice about being in technical roles is there's often a there's often a good path forward if you want to stay on the technical side, and a good path forward if you want to go into the management leadership side. And the decision on which way you go is really up to you and your personality and what kinds of problems you want to solve. But as long as you're solving problems that are valuable to the company to solve, you're going to be a valuable employee.
yeah.
Um, my dad is actually he's been a software developer for, gosh, probably over 30 years now. Uh,
Wow.
and never moved into management because he just didn't want to. And, that's perfectly fine. That's his decision, right? And then
Yeah.
there are other people where it's like, they're 3 or 5 years in and they're like, oh, why am I not moving up yet? I really want to move up and I deserve it now. uh,
Yeah.
so it's really, an interesting thing you can do, I think. But that brings me to another topic I wanted to chat with you about. So there's a big trend in software development right now with trying to get developers to be more active in testing. And one of the things I've seen is uh, with QA roles in particular, sometimes companies are going to those people and saying, like, hey, you've got to learn test automation. Uh, if you want to be a tester here, you have to be a developer too. And I'm curious what your experience has been around that, and if you think that's a good idea, if you think that works for every company. Could you share your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Um, well, as usual, I don't think that any idea works for every company. For sure,
Mm,
there are some of them that can handle it, but uh, it's not a perfect decision because to make good quality code and to make good quality test analytics, it's it may be different skills and different people who can do this work. When you have very complex business solution with a lot of dependencies and integrations, etc., making test analysis is like full-time job. You need to understand the system, you need to understand the business, you need to work with every part of the system and integration, etc. But you probably won't have time, and you won't have enough of energy to also automate this testing, because you will just miss some changes probably. And as for me, I've tried to learn test automation, like to do it hands-on, but yeah, I've studied three programming languages, and I've created some test cases using Java and Python, but I understood that I'm not interested in the code. I'm interested in the business, to solve the business issues, to understand how the business works and how our solution should work for business. But making this code which tests this solution is not interesting for me, and I just stopped it. I moved forward to my management career without understanding fully test automation, like on technical level. I have technical people, engineers, test leads, tech leads, who can solve these technical issues, but I prefer to solve business issues, to understand how to integrate this test automation into the whole solution, into whole testing, and how to make all the team work efficiently. I've seen these full stack test engineers who test manually and do test automation, and they were rather good specialists, and they were working on the projects where this role was sufficient. But I also have some projects where it wouldn't work. You need some person who do the test analysis, and you need a person who understands deeply technical solutions to make the code which tests, because it is really hard. You need to understand a lot of technical stuff. You need to be a developer, not a tester. You need to make very complex technical solutions, and you don't have time to understand complex business solution. And so to combine this in one person, well, it doesn't work. We tried, actually. We made some attempts, but you can have like couple of people who do both, but you still need people who do just test analysis and people who do the technical part.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how much there's a push to do this collapsing of roles uh, in QA and development, but that same push doesn't happen in other roles. Like, who's out there saying, well, maybe the marketing and finance people should be the same, because in finance they deal with a lot of spreadsheets, and marketing they deal with a lot of spreadsheets. So we want people who are really good at spreadsheets. Like, let's make those the same role. And if you went to a CEO and told them that, they'd be like, well, you're nuts. I went to business school, and marketing is a thing, and advertising is a thing, and finance is a thing, and it makes sense for those to be separate roles. And I don't care if they all use spreadsheets and they all need just a little bit of math. Like, let's have that be one person, so that I don't have to go out and hire 3 different people. And to me, it's really interesting that we do that with software testing. And I like that you brought up the fact that it takes time to really understand complex business requirements and be the expert in your organization on that side of things. and how it takes time to get in place good, solid test automation. Because I guess that's the other thing is it's not just about can someone do it? It's also about do they have the time to do it, right?
Yeah.
So you might be able to find someone or train someone who's capable of meeting with customers and analyzing business requirements, being that historical record of what's everything that ever went into the application, so that when the product team's asking for something new, you can say, is that consistent with what we've already got? And can also write code and can also write automated tests. But the bigger the system, the more time that is just going to take, right?
Yeah.
And so I like that you emphasize that. Now, you recently gave a talk at a conference on how to get started with testing when you're dealing with a complex system. Um, and in particular, what I thought was interesting was you said when all the requirements aren't known yet. So could you share a little bit about your approach to how you get proper testing in place when you're working on complex systems where the requirements aren't known yet?
Yeah. Well, my approach is rather simple. I try to simplify everything and to make these complex terms or complex objects just abstract blocks, like this block is working like this, this has such attributes, such actions, and they have some interactions, and that's the system. It's like it's just simple blocks, and you understand how to test this action, this action, this action. You understand how to test the attributes. You understand how to test integration between these blocks, etc. But it is not about like building full testing without understanding. It's just about building some test model, how we will do it when we will have all the information, when we will have system in place, when we can see it, when we can just try to do something, but we can already do some projections to understand how much time do we need, because we see that okay, we have 5 objects. Every object has like from 5 to 10 attributes and at least 3 actions, and we will have this number of test cases probably. And we can understand that okay, it will be a lot of testing. We can see that probably there is some integration missing, or probably we need some actions because, for example, we also add some testing knowledge, like about test design and some mnemonics. And for example, we can just check the actions um, if they fulfill the create, read, update, delete mnemonic. And if, for example, we have action for create, for read, and for delete, and the update is missing, we just can ask this question on the very early stage, not when we already work with the system, but when we just reading the text. And I really like the concept of shift left testing, because everything which is done on the early stage costs less, and it's much faster to redo things, to understand it better when we start early. So that's why I prefer to work with not ideal and not very like not finished requirements, because I understand that I can have information and I can just ask some questions which will help to make these requirements better. And in the end, the testing will get less time, and we will have not so much bugs, etc.
Hmm. Yeah. So how do you define shift left testing? Because I've heard a few different definitions, and I'm curious which one you like to use.
I define it as everything is moved to the beginning, to the left, and it is about uh, early requirements analysis. It is about using unit tests. It's about early test automation. So uh, it is not. It is about moving testing from after the development to before the development.
Mhm. Yeah, but I think the requirements piece is an important part of that. So, like,
Yeah.
sometimes I hear people say shift left testing, and they're only talking about uh, moving unit integration and acceptance testing earlier in the CI/CD pipeline. So they're gonna run the tests on a feature branch before they merge, and to them, that's like everything shift left testing. It's like we had these automated tests we used to run at the end. Now we're moving those automated tests to a feature branch before we merge. But you bring up the requirements piece of it, and when I've seen QA folks get involved in helping to define the requirements, helping to elaborate the requirements, or come up with what the acceptance criteria is, it has a huge impact on the success of the
Yeah.
project. And it sounds like that's part of what you're talking about as well here. Is that
Yeah.
accurate? Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. For me, shift left is the most part of it. It is about testers which are involved on the very early stage of the process. So they're not getting requirements when the development is finished. They're getting requirements when the requirements are finished, or maybe not yet finished.
Mhm.
So they can influence and challenge the solution and challenge the requirements and ask the right questions. Because, as for me, a QA engineer is a person who asks the right questions at the right
Mm.
time. And it is, for sure, it is about like technical solutions, like moving some automated steps earlier. But it is also about the process, and the process of moving testing to the left is more about involving people's brains, not like code.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's awesome, and I've seen it in practice where I think universally the tester is the person who knows the application better than anyone in the
Yeah,
company, better than sales, better than products, better than the
yeah,
CEO.
yeah,
And so it's like if you have somebody who knows the application better than anybody, who's really good at, as you say, asking the right questions, like why would you not want that person in the room when you're talking about a new feature and what's it going to do, right? And
yeah,
and that could look like hey, we want to add a new user role, and we want that user role to be able to view reports. And then they say, well, what about this section of the application where they can delete reports? Like, do you want that user to be able to delete reports too? And having that person ask that question saves you from getting all the way to after the product is launched,
yeah,
and the customer who has that new role logs an issue and says, well, why can't I delete reports? Of course I should be able to delete reports.
yeah, yeah, for
But
sure.
everybody was so laser focused on putting that shiny new report out there, creating the new role, that they weren't thinking about the current users and how they're using the system, or things like that. So
Yeah,
um, seems like that's a probably a really important part of the shift left testing mindset.
for me, yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. So like let's say you're at a company that's not doing shift left testing yet, and maybe it's not quite waterfall, so it's not like they're doing months of development work and then handing off a release to a QA team that's spending weeks testing it. That seems to be less and less common, even at the big companies. But what is more common is you still have a product team who's loading up a backlog for developers. They're spending a week or two writing code, and then they're handing it over the fence to a testing team that's spending a week or two testing it, or maybe even worse, they only get a couple hours to test it at the end of the week because there's a big push to ship something every week or every 2 weeks. So like let's say you're at that stage of things and you want to transition to really shift left on your testing. Like how would you go about getting that started in your company or a company you were working with?
Well, I would suggest to involve the test engineers into some grooming sessions because it is also always good to speak about the requirements because and speak about them in the group, not like personally. And it is very valuable to get different opinions. Probably you will have a lot of new information. You as a business or a product owner, a lot of new information about your own application and how it works and how it is used. So I would start with these grooming sessions with testers involved, and it would.
Yeah.
Mm,
So for
yeah,
anyone who's not familiar, you're referring to story grooming, right? Where you take a
yeah,
user story and then you get it to a sufficient level of detail to
yeah,
work on
yeah,
before you estimate it. So it's like
yeah,
adding acceptance criteria and things like that. So
yeah,
that's where you would recommend inviting the
uh,
testers into that meeting. It's
yeah.
kind of a good
Uh,
first step.
well, it is a pretty simple procedure, so it doesn't require a lot of a lot of knowledge from the team, a lot of time. It is pretty simple and it can work for, I think, any uh, development methodology you follow. It's not, it is usually in Scrum, but you can also introduce it in any custom or classic methodology. And you can organize it not to be very time consuming because I know that there are uh, grooming sessions which last for like 4 hours, 5 hours, etc. I even participated.
Anytime you say a meeting lasts for 4 hours, if it's not like a once a year thing,
Yeah.
yeah.
Me personally, I participated in the grooming sessions. So once a sprint, which lasted like for 2 weeks, and every grooming was a full day. So it was
Oh,
like we came to the meeting room at 10 or 11 in the morning, and we just finished at 6 or 7. I don't remember exactly, and it was terrible. You don't understand anything after the lunch. After the lunch, you want just to lie and sleep because it became very boring. And we restructured these meetings, and it was at some point it became really useful. So I would start with it, but if, for example, someone doesn't want to spend the time for the meetings, like we have a lot of calls, etc., let the people work. I would just make at least some um, offline discussions on every feature, like when the feature is ready from the business perspective or from business analysts. They notify test engineers, and test engineers just review the requirements and provide some feedback or some questions, and they do some test design to understand how testing will be organized, and at least this offline conversation will bring a lot of new information to every party. So for me, it is more efficient when you just do it on the meeting, because you can involve more people into this discussion and hear more opinions and have even some uh, small fights on how to do it and if it is really needed. But at least some quality assurance review of the business requirements. For me, it is a must. I introduce it on every project I work.
Yeah. So once you start inviting people to meetings, it always becomes a question of who should be in what meeting and for how long per week and all of that. And I've seen the story grooming in particular be one where it could be wildly different depending on what company you're at. So, one company uh, they might invite everybody to grooming, like the whole team. And so on the whole team, you've got somebody from product, somebody from QA, somebody from development. You might have team leads and managers. So it's a big room with like 12, 15 people in it. And they go through every single story and try to groom those stories to get them to the right level and then get them estimated. And then sometimes I've seen where the grooming happens first and then the whole team gets together to just do the estimation. So you might
Mhm.
have like two or three people working on getting the stories to sufficient level of detail, but then the whole team comes together and reviews them as a team and then estimates them. And then sometimes I've seen it where it's just the story itself gets handed off to two or three people and then they just do the estimation together and deal with it. But the whole team never even sees everything. So it's kind of like at one end of the spectrum, you've got everybody in the room talking about every single thing, maybe even writing the stories together. And then the other end, it's like everybody going off by themselves and doing it, and you're kind of hoping that it comes back together when you get to planning. So like
Yeah.
where have your teams landed on that spectrum and what do you think works the best there?
I think it depends on the team. So if you have a small team, like, I don't know, two testers, three developers, one business analyst, it's fine to bring all the team together, because probably they're working very closely, and everyone knows about everything. But if it is a large project where like a lot of Scrum teams or feature teams, it is not useful to bring everyone to these meetings. But the one thing I don't accept is when just like, I don't know, leads do the grooming and the estimation, and the other team members just know nothing about it. I've
Mm,
seen a couple of cases when everything was done by the test lead, like grooming and estimation. And when he left the company, uh, no one in the team understood how to estimate the story. It was like
mm.
everyone was, we don't know what to do. So, come on, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, there's an old agile document floating around. I haven't seen it in many years, but this just reminded me of it. I think it's called the Developer Bill of Rights.
Okay.
So there was like a customer bill of rights, which is this is what the customer should expect in a software project. And there's a developer bill of rights that this is what a developer uh,
Mhm.
should expect in a project. And one of the items on the developer bill of rights is like I have the right to estimate my own work.
Yeah.
So if you're being asked to do something, you should be the one giving the estimate. I'll have to dig that up. I haven't looked at it in many years, but it's important, right? Because uh, an estimate is it's a commitment of what you plan on doing for delivery, right? And I think for a commitment to be real, it has to be created by the person who's making that commitment, right? Um,
Yeah. And
I could tell you like, hey Natalia, this is uh you've got this item you're going to work on. I looked at it and, I could do it in 2 hours, so I'll give you 2 hours to do it. If you've never even seen the thing, never heard it, I mean, that doesn't really seem fair to you, right?
Yeah. And for
And
me,
it can go both ways too. You might look at it and say, "Well, okay, Chris, it takes you 2 hours to do it. I could do it in 30 minutes." Like, so it's not just like the lead is always gonna be overestimating things or underestimating things. It's just they're not the person who's going to be doing the work. So um,
yeah,
their
for me it
estimate
is.
is going to be less accurate because of that. It seems, right?
Mhm. For me, it is also about the lead not understanding that there are different persons in the team. Everyone has their own strength and their own like things to improve. And as a lead, you should understand that every person moves with their own speed, and the base of their work is very different depending on their skill set and their knowledge on how long they are in the project. It is not like great practice to make some um, average estimations and say like everyone in the team should work uh, with these estimations and fulfill them. It's just it's not working actually.
Mhm. Cool. Yeah. So I guess last question is, if it's okay to have these different roles on the team, so we have people who specialize in product, people who specialize in testing, people who specialize in development, and they're kind of all working on a whole team. Like, what does the ideal team structure look like to you? Um,
Wow.
like, should they all report up to one person? Should they report into different teams and then just kind of get together in the same room?
Uh, my favorite answer, it depends on. I don't believe in something being ideal. I've seen the projects which work successfully without testers or without business analysts. I've seen the projects where there were as much testers as developers, etc., because everything depends on the context, and everything uh, is very specific for the project. You cannot uh, take one team which works on some project, on some product, and put it for completely another product and say that they will be successful. Maybe yes, maybe no. So
Mhm.
I won't answer your question. I'm sorry.
Quite all right. But I think that's a good place to wrap things up here. So we've been speaking with Natalia Petrovskaia, engineering manager at Customer Times, and had a really good conversation. So thank you for coming on the program, Natalia.
Thank you for the invitation. It was really a pleasure.